The tiny coastal town of Veridon's Bluff had for centuries embraced its solitude, a solitude that was only disrupted every summer when the tourists flooded in, seeking the quaintness of isolation and the charm of the untamed sea. But this summer was different. A shadow had fallen over Veridon's Bluff, a darkness woven not from clouds, but something beneath the skin of the town itself. It began with a single unnoticed event, the washing ashore of an odd-looking seaweed, deep green and pulsating with what could only be described as a heartbeat. The town's marine biologist, Dr. Elara Grant, was fascinated by the discovery. The seaweed, upon closer examination, seemed to have a vascular system, an impossibility for such an organism. Dr. Grant took samples back to her lab, nestled in the shadow of the old lighthouse. As she peered through her microscope, she observed the cells of the plant behaving like predatory animals, dividing and conquering neighboring tissues she had introduced for study. It was a breakthrough, a horror that defied natural order. News of her discovery spread through Veridon's Bluff like wildfire, but fascination turned to fear as the townspeople began to fall ill. It started with a fever, then a strange growth beneath the skin, as if something was trying to push its way out. The town's doctor was overwhelmed, and when he too succumbed to the sickness, panic set in. The sea, once a source of life, had become a harbinger of death. The pulsating plants were appearing more frequently on shore, spreading like a blight. Dr. Grant, immune to the hysteria, continued her research, desperate to find a solution. One night, as the moon painted the sea in a ghastly hue, Dr. Grant discovered the truth. The seaweed was not just a plant, it was a parasite. Its spores were carried on the waves, infecting those who swam in the ocean, ate from its bounty, or even breathed in the mist that rolled in with the tide. Dr. Grant raced to the town hall, interrupting the council's emergency meeting with her dire news. She explained that the parasite was not just feeding on the townspeople, it was reshaping them, preparing them to host something new. She spoke of a pulse, a signal that the parasite was sending out to sea, calling to something. Her warnings were met with skepticism until the ground itself began to tremble. The sea retreated, and from the exposed seabed, a grotesque leviathan rose, its form an amalgamation of sea creatures and the unfortunate souls who had been lost to the waves over the centuries. The pulse had been a beacon, and the townspeople, their bodies now ripe with growths, were being drawn to the leviathan, their flesh folding into its mass, becoming part of its perverse congregation. The parasite didn't just infect, it assimilated, it unified. Dr. Grant, along with the few who had heeded her warnings and stayed clear of the infection, watched in horror as the leviathan waded back into the ocean. Its new appendages, the townsfolk of Veridon's Bluff, waving like fronds in the tide. In the aftermath, the military quarantined Veridon's Bluff, the town now a graveyard of empty homes and silent streets. Dr. Grant was taken away, her research confiscated. The official story spoke of a toxic bloom and environmental disaster that had been contained. But the truth lived on in whispers of conspiracy and in the depths of the sea. And sometimes, during the stillness of a high tide, if one listens closely, they can hear it. The pulse of the perverse parasite, beating in time with the heart of the ocean, waiting to spread anew.